I've been waiting, honestly. I've been extremely ready, like excited for this series.
The
of
library
everything.
show.
Well, just talking about Cowboy Bebop. I've been waiting like forever to talk about Cowboy Bebop.
Woohoo! And we're here finally after powering through Star Wars Visions on Disney Plus.
Oh my god!
Here. Episode 1 of Cowboy Bebop.
Hopefully, this won't be as painful to finish.
Oh my gosh, it's not painful, folks. No, he's just a sensitive guy.
No, whatever, taking like an entire month and a half to finish Star Wars Visions.
So we finally made it to Cowboy Bebop episode 1. What was the name of this episode?
It's called Cowboy Gospel.
You know this, but I mean, I think people watching might not know this. I did not watch the anime. I heard a lot of great things about it. I've had friends that watched it. I mean, Jeremy, you've obviously watched it as well. I didn't know he was a space cowboy and a bounty hunter. Is that what it is?
Cowboy is just a term they use to call bounty hunters.
Oh, I see. But he's a space cowboy. Is that what it is?
Space bounty hunter, space cowboy. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And then his name is Spike. I thought his name was Bebop. I thought it was going to be Bebop.
No, Bebop is in reference to the style of jazz.
Oh.
Well, technically the ship is named Bebop, but really the show is called Cowboy Bebop because the jazz music used in the soundtrack, at least in the anime, and also in the show,
like
is
bebop kind of sound.
It's a lot like bebop music. I mean, not everything they use in the. I think not everything in the album of the live action was bebop music per se, but they did use a lot of elements from it.
I can foresee like people who haven't watched the anime and are watching it for the first time. Like a lot of times I was caught off guard because they started the scene in the casino and I was like, oh, it's kind of old school. So I was like, oh, maybe 70s, 80s. And obviously someone like me who wasn't privy to watch.
The original anime came out, I think or at least released in Japan in 97 or something like that.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but it didn't release until in the US until much later on.
Oh, you talk about the dub version or the sub version?
The dub version. It's so funny. Like, this is the only anime I've ever watched that I approve of in dub over sub.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, I actually prefer the dub over the sub for this particular anime. The good thing is
you can watch the anime on Netflix. It is available on Netflix if you want to watch that version of it. I have no experience, like you, Jeremy, in watching the anime of Cowboy Bebop. Like I said, I heard about it. I heard it's a very cult classic.
Yeah, but honestly, that might be a good thing.
I think so. I like throughout.
Yeah, you don't have like any preconceived expectations, and you also don't have that whole. You don't have to worry about any sort of nostalgia from your childhood hitting you.
Sure.
Because I feel like this is what happens a lot in these adaptations or any sort of remake, right? It's just you watch it as a kid. Or when you're growing up, right, and then you watch it later, and it's it's
like
totally different.
Terrible.
Yeah, I didn't watch the live action of Lion King.
Oh, I heard it was bad. I mean, you can throw Beyonce in there, you can throw Seth Rogen, but sometimes you just can't beat the anime. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I think honestly, it's probably better. It's probably a good thing that you probably didn't watch the anime growing up, or
you
haven't watched anime at all.
I have to say, I know you have your opinions, and because this is going to be more so a review than kind of like a retelling of the episode. I actually really liked it. Building about it yesterday, but I was he fell asleep a few times. He doesn't see what the hype is, but I fell asleep a couple times, like last night, this morning, a few times. But I have to say, when I did find the energy to stay up and watch it, the story was actually really good, and I think just the new concepts, cowboy, bounty hunters. The way they do, light speed and all this other stuff was very different, and I think a new approach to a lot of the.
Well, also, I mean, it is interesting. It's in the future, but they have so many
old school
technology.
Yeah. The slot machines.
The casino. Yeah, it's an old style casino in a space station.
Right. Which, it did catch me off guard. I would kind of like, am I tripping out? And, I obviously, was first time, but then now I was like a little bit.
I mean, they keep that pretty. I mean, that's actually one of the great things is they kind of keep that consistent in the live action as well as, in the anime.
Oh, okay. So that kind of translated over then pretty well.
Yeah. And I noticed like they draw a lot of parallels from like different pieces from the anime. Like, for example, the casino, the opening scene, right, with the casino and the bounty of Tanaka in the shootout, like it's very similar to how the Cowboy Bebop movie kind of starts off with.
Right.
Like it's just this guy robbing something. He's robbing a convenience store in the movie, but the same concept applies, right? And he's like rambling about the system and the government stealing your money and all that stuff, and and then Spike kind of just waltzes in with like headphones in, just casually chilling.
Okay.
Bloopers.
Yeah, bloopers. People just calling randomly. I need to get a camera, obviously. Maybe Cyber Monday. Cyber Monday is the day.
You mean today?
Yeah, today. Okay. Well, who knows when this is going to be released, so it could be any day.
Next Christmas, for sure.
Yes, yeah. This is 1 year anniversary of Cowboy Bebop's release. And we decided to release our videos today, 1 year after.
Yeah.
That's funny. It was like streamers react or vloggers react to, or reviewers react to reviewers from 1 year ago on a show that we reviewed. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so why don't you continue where you left off, and then we'll cut out.
No, I was just saying like how the opening scene from this live action adaptation is very similar to how the Cowboy Bebop movie opens up.
Oh, does it? Okay. So
yeah.
The movie itself, not the anime.
The anime movie.
Oh, I see. So there's an anime movie and the anime itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're talking about specifically the anime movie.
Yeah, I was just saying like it's just that one scene that kind of like runs parallel to this opening scene for the Netflix version. So I mean, I think they just did that purposely, kind of to give like a nod for like people who are fans of it to kind of pick up on.
Yeah, and that could be reminiscent, right, of the.
Yeah, like I said, it's. I mean, a lot of these times, it's like. It hits on like the nostalgia note, right? A lot.
Right. Well, for the old fans, but for
the old fans, yeah. And then for the new ones, it's like a new experience. So like I said, I think it's better when you have the preconceived ideas of what the show should be.
Yeah. Well, hopefully throughout the week that we record this, we actually get to have different points of view where it's like, oh, you get to reference, like essentially you become the Cowboy Bebop expert, and then I'm kind of like the first looker, and I'm like, oh, these.
Oh, I can do like a whole freaking like art case study on on Cowboy Bebop. Not necessarily the music. I mean the music as well, but like also the philosophy and the overarching theme of Cowboy Bebop.
What stood out to me cinematically. So aside from like the big set pieces and the grand, kind of like world building that they, probably invested in. I can only imagine how expensive it was to do this episode, just the episode alone, like setting up all these different stylistic worlds and landing here, talking about Mars, space stations, CGIing all this. Like even I was just watching one scene where the ship rocks, and I was like, wow, that must have been expensive to do, like it looks so real. So, like for me, I was kind of taken I was just surprised, not taken aback, but I was more surprised in the casino scene when he brought up the blaster. I'm like, okay, well, like this kind of makes sense. And then he shoots the blaster, right? And then all of a sudden I'm like watching it go through this hole and then realizing that the hole is actually into space. And I was like, oh, shoot, this is not an old school, like, cowboy saloon or casino. Is actually space. That was the first thing. And then the next thing is that, the set pieces. Those were kind of like the visual cues that kind of stood out for me. And then, of course, all that foreshadowing, right? With, what's his name? His name is
Spike and
Spike. Oh, Spike. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's Spike Spiegel, and then there's Jet Black.
Oh, that's kind of cool name. And that's how it is in the anime, right? I'm assuming.
That's their names in the anime. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I guess they wouldn't depart from that too much. But I liked it, like it brought me into a different world. It was a cross between, cowboys and then space, and then that became Space Cowboys. Yeah, so like in the original show, there's always this iconic phrase at the end of the scene. Yeah.
And I think they have in the anime too. It's like always like, "See you later, Space Cowboy."
Yeah, I saw that there. That was kind of cool. I was like, "Oh, see you next time, Space Cowboy." I was like, "Oh, yeah, I would want to be a Space Cowboy, which would be like a bounty hunter at that time." It seems very like a common thing. It kind of reminds me of like, John Wick. John Wick, where they have all these people that are out for bounties.
I guess so. It's supposed to be more reminiscent of like the old Western style.
Oh yeah, like having wanted signs and bringing.
Yeah, like how like in the old Western movies where like you have some bounty hunter chasing in a lawless wasteland.
Yeah. What's so funny too is that I thought that the practicality of space travel for them seemed a little bit more realistic. Having those rings that they have to go through. I was, because when I look at things like Star Wars or Star Trek, I'm like, wait, like, what are they gonna hit debris? Like, are they gonna, but it like almost reminds me of like Super Mario Kart, right? Or Mario Kart, where it's like, bzoo, 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 right? Like each ring you pass through, you get faster and maybe maintain the same speed, but like at least that in those circles the airways are clear, so you're not hitting asteroids or well,
it's basically the asteroid gates are basically opens up like a wormhole that you travel through.
Yeah, and I thought that was a little bit more practical than other space shows that I've seen that go into hyperspace. I was like, oh, this makes sense because people, having to get permission to go into hyperspace, like if not, then of course you're going to get attacked if you don't have permission or clearance. I thought that made it so much more real for me in the episode. And I was like, oh, this is actually really cool from a, like a more practical standpoint, as opposed to things just willy nilly, like poof, here we go,
Right.
Yeah. So that was one point that I kind of picked up on. And then, obviously this was a kind of beginning to end arc that kind of left with a little bit of a cliffhanger, which has, John Cho or Spike's girlfriend, which I think just is shown in flashbacks right throughout the episode.
Oh, are you referring to how it ends with the girl at the end?
Yeah, right. I was like, oh, shoot. So I found that interesting because, I mean, obviously, like in normal anime sense, right, from the intro credits, it kind of like tells the whole story, introduces all the characters, and then boom, here you are with the guy with the long white hair, and he's probably the big bad. Yeah,
so I guess that's one of the things. So actually, I'm already picking up on the fact that for this live action, they're completely changing the entire structure of the story from start to finish.
Right.
It's like completely told out of not out of I guess it's kind of out of order, because technically Spike's, you don't really dive into like Spike's past until much later on in the season.
Yeah.
But in this one, they're introducing it right off the bat, right? They're kind of giving hints of like who Spike was, right? With the nickname of Fearless, mentioned by the syndicate member, and also the flashbacks of this mysterious blonde woman with the rose tattoo on her left shoulder or back shoulder. Yeah, so they are. I guess they're kind of speeding things a little bit. I don't really know how I feel about that kind of thing. I mean, I don't know if it's good or bad. Like, if you're just judging it from like this one episode, it's hard to say if that's a good thing.
I mean, I think that's why a lot of TV shows kind of try to figure out like a format, right?
Yeah,
it's going to be short format, long format is going to be
because. Yeah, and I understand why they did that. I totally understand why writers the writers chose to go in that direction is because in the anime, each episode is sort of like an individual news story.
Right.
And then
it has arcs in it, beginnings and ends, right?
Well, each episode is its own story, pretty much. Aside from like maybe like a handful, which kind of give you a sort of main story line, which is just about about Spike's past.
Sure.
But in this one, it sounds like they're combining a lot of different storylines into one mainstream one. So, you have, for example, Spike's story, which is, his mysterious ties to the Syndicate and the name Fearless. And then also there's a storyline of Jet, and he mentions his daughter, Kimmy.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes you wonder what's his relationship in that.
Well, his relationship is he can't buy her a birthday present.
Yeah.
Got money.
And that alone already is very kind of different from what I'm used to.
The picture already for him.
No, different from the anime. It's like you already can get sense. It already starts diverging from the anime in that sense. So Jet, I guess it's kind of a spoiler, but if you hadn't watched the original anime in the last 30 years, and shame on you. Tough luck. Is that Jet doesn't have a wife and doesn't have a daughter, so he's a lone man. He's just a.
I wonder if they wrote that story to humanize him a little bit, or maybe it could be a misdirect where
I don't really know why. I mean, I guess only time will tell, right, as we get into the next episodes down the line.
Yeah.
But they did change a lot about who's, I guess, Jet's background or his
backstory, his
backstory.
Character development.
Like the fact that he has a daughter kind of, changes quite a bit.
Do you feel like you would kind of act the same way as John Cho or Spike if you saw someone who looked similar to like the love of your life?
It depends on the circumstance of the relationship, right?
Right.
So me as a Cowboy Bebop mega fan, right, from the get-go.
Fan. Whoa, that's a self-proclaimed title I've never heard before.
I know, I'm a self-proclaimed mega fan. Me being a huge fan of the show from the anime days, right? I already know like what his relationship is with that blonde girl, and kind of like what the whole backstory is. If they decide to follow along that path, right? Who knows? But knowing all of that, I can fully understand like the way that Spike reacts to seeing someone who looks like it is totally like justifiable.
Oh, is it? Okay, so then we'll feel that maybe. And I think storytelling in that manner is actually really robust because it's actually taking the rewatch value up to a new level, right? Because obviously he feels a certain way, and I'm like, okay, why does he feel this certain way? Like, why is there this significance to this lady? And then of course watching it and then be like, oh, hey,
it's really hard because it's like I want to like say like, oh yeah, all of this is going to happen, like this is it's going to play out in certain ways. You're going to have like similar tropes that I've already witnessed, but at the same time it's like, well, I don't know if that's going to happen anymore. Because for one, it is a live action adaptation, and it does sound like they're taking quite a few liberties with the show. And so obviously that's something we have to, I'm going to be on the lookout for, is whether it's.
And we got to pick apart and look at it and kind of discover. So, I mean, I think, from the perspective of a first watcher, and of course not knowing Cowboy Bebop and it being one of the top 10, in Netflix. So obviously people are watching it. I thought it was a really cool rendition of kind of just like following these bounty hunters, in kind of like this space, world with, cowboys. And I thought that was amazing. I was like, oh, this is great. Perfect mix of new ideas, perfect mix of character and stylistic choices. So like I was not disappointed at all. I mean, it did take me a little bit to get through it. If anybody else is considering watching, Cowboy Bebop, it took me a little time to kind of get over that hump. But after the first episode, I found, at least a little nuances that make me like it a lot, There's, I mean, especially speaking of nuances, I mean, I did appreciate that they kept the first episode the
as the anime, like which is the the arc of Asimov and Katarina.
Yeah, Asimov was very interesting. And then, so I don't know if like what is that called? Red Eyes does play a role in the future. You know what I mean? I guess. Time will only tell. I mean, it's almost like talking to someone who knows the future. And I'm like, hey.
Well, it's like I know a future. All right.
Right. Yeah. It's like out of 1,700,000 plus futures, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why I was saying it's really hard sometimes to like know if the show's really good or really bad.
I feel like that's the same with the MCU, right? Like, it's like, I kind of know these characters. I'm familiar with them. I know them from the cartoons and this and that.
Yeah.
Like, even the ending of Eternals. I was like, oh,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I guess it is a lot like the Marvel MCU universe.
Because I was like, I know these characters. I know Quasar. I know all these people, but seeing them in live versions, like you, right, Cowboy Bebop, seeing in live versions, then with little tweaks to the story, you're kind of like, what do you trust, right? Like now I have to shuttle the line between this new universe and then the old universe that I've known for 30 years, right?
True.
So, I've only known this for 30 years. So I think the same thing for me, with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm like, well, I know Spider-Man and these characters are supposed to be this. And I think they try to make it comic book accurate as best as possible. But sometimes I think going to the theaters, it doesn't translate, like there's no downtimes. You have to keep everybody and keep building, when it comes to like the pacing for Cowboy Bebop has to be a little bit slower because you're going through episode by episode and each one is an hour as opposed to telling a story in 2 to 3 hours, which would be like more of a cinematic choice, right? So, we talk about it a lot because obviously we're doing these podcasts on episodes, just what kind of format these shows are presenting themselves like. And I think what makes it different too, Jeremy, is the weekly or releasing it all at one time concept. You know what I mean? Like Arcane, which we're going to be reviewing. And then, of course, the one on Amazon for, what is it called? My Time.
Wheel of Time.
The Wheel of Time. Right. The My Time. My Watch. It's going to be interesting to see. But did you have any final comments for the Cowboy Bebop episode 1? Since, we will be recording episode 2 and then seeing how that looks.
It's it's hard because there's a lot I can say, but the thing is, like, I want to give it a chance, Oh,
why? Did you not like it?
No. Okay. So my overall thoughts are it's watchable, right? Like, at least for me, I was able to watch it and I thought it was okay. Like, sure. Nothing like, I didn't think it was like anything great.
I like Jancho. Jancho was great. Yeah.
I mean, the characters are cool and all. I definitely liked the guy who played Jet in the show.
Yeah, he's cool. He kind of reminds you of Barrett from Final Fantasy VII. I think this could be a good Barrett. You know what I mean? Good Barrett.
Yeah, Mustafa Shakir. I thought he was.
Is that the guy who was in Black Panther? Or we don't know.
Was he in Black Panther? No, he was Luke Cage in Luke Cage.
Oh, no way! Whoa, that's.
He was the main villain in Luke Cage.
Okay, yeah.
Or I think it was like season 2, I think, or something like that. I don't remember.
Luke Cage.
Luke Cage.
About the guy from Mortal Kombat?
No.
Oh, Luke Cage he's a Marvel character.
Yeah, it was a Netflix adaptation of a superhero. Ooh. Like Luke Cage, Jessica Jones.
Yeah. Luke Cage was the guy with like incredibly hard steel body.
Yeah. So I think Mustafa Shakir was. I didn't watch season 2, but I think he was the main villain in the second season.
Oh, they did a good job with. Not an entirely good job, but I felt like they did decently well with the Defenders. I hope I can watch that again. I'm gonna watch that actually on Disney+.
Yeah, Defender is bad.
I like Jessica Jones. Okay. They're gonna keep her, I heard.
Okay, well, anyway, continuing off. I thought the guy who played Jet was probably like the closest
to the real anime. Right?
He was the closest. He had the closest. He was the closest to the original character.
Yeah.
And there's so many changes. I'm not really sure how to like process it, or not process it all, but feel about it. For example, aside from the fact that we're introduced to all of the main characters straight up from episode 1, from Faye Valentine to Spike's past, and the mysterious blonde woman, as well as Vicious. It's I guess it's very, very fast paced in terms of like the introduction.
From your perspective,
from my perspective,
I was like, oh, this is great. Like character introduction. Don't waste any time. All these very high notes of the storyline progressing. If I were to watch it not knowing that Cowboy Bebop was an anime or there was any reference to prior creations of this,
there's some references, and then they just added a bunch of stuff like the name Fearless that they invoke, right?
Yeah,
that's new for me.
Oh, interesting.
That's completely new for me.
Like when they call from the syndicate, calling him Fearless,
yeah. And
they thought he was dead. Is that what happened in the anime? Well,
him being fake dead is the same. But the fact that they called him Fearless is something new for me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'm trying to wrap my hand around why it was needed. Maybe maybe it was like the show thought like they needed an explanation as to why Vicious has such like a outrageous name, and Spike is just a kind of a normal, regular name. Yeah. So they decided to call him Fearless because fearless and vicious.
Obviously this probably stays for another podcast, but I guess we learned the reason why he's just so good at what he does, like as a bounty hunter and as a martial artist. I was like, oh, he's actually, pretty good. Like he was doing really well, in terms of the fights. So I was like, oh, I wonder if he had to practice for that, or, because they were talking about referencing John Wick again. When John Wick had to do all his stunts, it was like unbelievable. So
true. You sure like John Wick, huh?
Yeah, I do like John Wick. I thought it was good, and it's so funny because I don't normally like action shows like this. Like I didn't like the Bourne series. I don't like 007, but John Wick was like something I was kind of interested in, and the lore behind it. Although, I would say I like The Matrix a lot better. But, I'm excited to see, how Cowboy Bebop unfolds, within the later episodes. So,
right.
Just wanna wait and see.
I would say probably the one criticism I have for at least this episode, and I don't know if it's an actual criticism, it's just that the first episode is really supposed to be about, about Spike and Jack trying to capture the bounty of Asimov and Katarina, right?
Right.
And it does this whole arc is just kind of gives you a sense of who those those side characters are and what the relationship is, and their their untimely death at the very end, right?
Right, yeah.
But I would say that this version of it seems a lot less tragic.
Oh, was it more like of a tragic story? I felt pretty tragic.
Yeah.
The revealing of the baby not being the baby, and like I don't even know what substance that was that she dropped.
That was all the red eye. She was hiding.
Oh, was that all red eye? Oh, I see.
I mean,
she wasn't even pregnant to begin with then?
No, she was never pregnant. She was hiding the red eye in her dress to make it look like a baby bump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people wouldn't question her like, oh, that's baby.
Yeah, so the only reason why I say it didn't feel as sad is because I feel like it didn't really showcase like just how damaging the red eye is when you use it.
Oh, yeah.
So red eye, okay, I don't know, I guess it's the same, but the red eye originally is a performance enhancing drug, like a combat stimulation, right? That increases your reflexes. Yeah, it is like a super serum. But if you take it in like large doses, it can be like very damaging to your psyche. Like it makes you more aggressive, but it increases like your reflexes and your thought process.
Right.
So
it's like an enhancement drug, right?
It is an enhancement drug, yeah. But
which was kind of
it's like an enhancement drug on cocaine.
Okay. Ooh.
Yeah, because it's supposed to be really, really bad for you. But anyway, so the reason I say it feels a lot less sad is because I don't think I didn't feel like it showed like just how much change how much it changes a person's personality when they abuse it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there was glimpses of the girl who was looking at it. Her name was Victoria. She was looking at him kind of change, but it wasn't really enough to make an impact at all.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just like reveal, like I'll share with you like how in the anime handles it, right? Like basically it's like they're, you're kind of introduced them, they're kind of like a caring kind of couple in secret, hiding, running from the syndicate and all that stuff. But he has to take it in order to show like it works and stuff like that, right?
Got it.
But anyway, as the show progresses, you eventually get to a point where he eventually just like snaps at Katarina for dropping all of the red eye on the ground.
Oh, I see.
He's like, hey, drop this. Like, this is our livelihood. Why'd you do that? Kind of stuff. And it just kind of just shakes Katarina up from like her dream.
Yeah.
That
of a happy life,
Yeah, exactly. All of her dreams are just kind of like woken up, realizing that this is not the same man that she fell in love with. But as they're kind of taking off into their ship to escape into the astral world, she realizes that he's gone, too far, he's not good. He's already kind of lost it. Like,
right. As opposed, so seeing the deterioration.
Yeah, the severe deterioration, and then eventually she, and in the end, decides to end his life. She shoots him as they're flying away, and right before the cops at the gate open fire on them.
That's so crazy. Actually, not just mentally going through it in my mind, like that does change the story quite significantly.
It does, yeah. It's like these. It's like really small things.
Yeah.
It's like very, very small, like I guess scenes or choices that the characters are forced to make that make it feel a lot different.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Like in live action, it's really not really left up to her. Like Asimov gets shot by Faye, and he's like bleeding out in the neck.
It definitely did make it as impactful, right? Like
and I mean, don't get me wrong, it still felt very sad with she's looking at the gate and she's like, oh, my dream's about to come to realization, and then she looks over and sees Asimov just bled out, right?
Yeah.
And then she kind of just speeds into the police to get shot at.
Yeah. Well, and then her and Spike actually do an exchange, which she referenced earlier, that like for the girl, right, the rose tattoo girl, like he had to just let it go, right? And then she said, okay, I'm gonna let it go, and then she flew into the cyber police.
Well, she gave up, right? She's like, oh, I have nothing left. Like, there's nothing left for me, so there's nothing for me to live on.
Just sacrifice it and get shot up by the police.
Yeah.
And then she's gone. So
it's a different thing. It's like she's forced to let go as opposed to she purposely decides to let go.
Choice, right? She makes
a choice. Yeah. So that's the only thing I guess that's the really only criticism I had for this episode.
Right. Yeah, I like, with no prior experience or background with it, I mean, I liked it. I mean, like I said, it did take me a little time to kind of get acclimated to the concept and idea, but once I did, I was like, oh, this is actually a really good show, decent pacing, good, conflict that they encountered, and then of course whatever the resolution was, to kind of get back to homeostasis. So I thought it was a good episode. I mean, I'm excited to see what episode 2 and the rest of the episodes look like, and how we, differ in our opinions, and then also your reference to the anime and how this changes. So, well, you just gotta find out and tune in next week or next time. Can't say next week because we don't know if this is coming out next week, but you just gotta tune in because this is the informal podcast. Yeah, we'll see ya at the 1 year or the 10-year anniversary of Cowboy Bebop, the live version on Netflix. That'd be bad. But yeah, so stay tuned, just like and subscribe, because you may want to hear how things differ from the live action to the anime in the next episode. So we'll see you around.